I refused to pay my husband's friend $200 after he left him stranded in the wilderness. My husband Jake has this friend Nathan, who thinks he's some kind of survival expert because he watches Bear Grylls and owns expensive camping gear. The guy is one of those people who constantly talks about how soft everyone else is and how he could survive anywhere with just a knife and his skills. So when Nathan suggested he and Jake go on a weekend camping trip to some remote spot 3 hours away, I had a bad feeling. Jake hadn't been camping since he was 12, and Nathan's idea of roughing it was staying at a Holiday Inn without room service. But Jake was excited about bonding with his friend, so I kept my mouth shut. The plan was simple. Nathan would drive them out there Friday afternoon, they'd camp for 2 nights, and come back Sunday evening. Nathan insisted they go to this super remote spot he'd discovered that was miles from the nearest road. He kept bragging about how it was going to be a real test of their manhood. Friday came and Jake packed his stuff. I hugged him goodbye and told him to text me when they got there. That was the last I heard from him until Sunday night at 11 p.m. My phone rang and it was Jake, and he sounded exhausted and pissed off. He told me he was at some gas station 40 miles from where Nathan had dropped him off, and he needed me to come pick him up. I was confused because Nathan was supposed to drive him home. That's when Jake told me what happened. Nathan had apparently decided that a real survival experience meant Jake had to find his own way back to civilization. On Sunday morning, Nathan packed up his stuff and told Jake he was leaving, and that Jake could either walk out or call for help like a weakling. Then he just drove off and left my husband alone in the middle of nowhere with no car, no cell service, and barely any supplies. Jake had to hike for 6 hours through rough terrain just to find a road. Then he had to walk another 2 hours to reach that gas station. He was dehydrated, had blisters on his feet, and was covered in bug bites. The worst part was that Nathan had taken the cooler with most of their food when he left. I drove out to get Jake, and the whole way home he was furious. He kept saying how Nathan had put him in actual danger, and how he could have gotten seriously hurt or lost. When we got home, Jake immediately called Nathan to confront him. Nathan laughed it off and said Jake should thank him for the character-building experience. He actually had the nerve to say that Jake was being dramatic, and that real men don't need to be coddled. Then he said Jake owed him $200 for gas and campsite fees since he was the one who organized the trip. I grabbed the phone and told Nathan he was out of his mind if he thought we were paying him anything. I said if anyone owed money, it was him for the gas I had to waste driving 2 hours round trip to rescue my husband from his stupidity. Nathan got all huffy and said I didn't understand guy friendships, and that Jake was being a baby about the whole thing. The next day, Nathan showed up at our house demanding the $200. He had this whole speech prepared about how he'd paid for everything, and Jake had agreed to split costs. I told him that abandoning someone in the wilderness wasn't part of any reasonable camping agreement, and he could take his bill and shove it. Nathan tried to guilt trip us, saying he'd spent his own money and time planning the trip. He even brought receipts for the campsite and gas. I looked at his receipts and told him that maybe next time he should plan a trip that doesn't involve attempted murder. Jake finally told Nathan to get off our property and never contact him again. Nathan left, but not before calling us both ungrateful and saying he'd never do anything nice for us again. A few days later, Nathan started texting other friends in their group, trying to get them to pressure Jake into paying. He was telling everyone that Jake was a cheapskate who used him for a free camping trip and then refused to pay his share. But when Jake told them what actually happened, most of their friends were horrified. One of them pointed out that what Nathan did could have gotten Jake killed if he'd gotten lost or injured. Another friend said Nathan was lucky Jake didn't call the police for abandonment. The group basically turned on Nathan, and now he's not invited to anything anymore.